I did
I
it.
do it and then I didn't do it.
Good job.
At
Well
least there's
done.
something there.
We did go over it.
Friday.
Really,
There happened to be a
I
packet that was left in here.
Did there
I
happen?
haven't
Somehow.
noticed. I mean,
That's a long time ago.
Ray.
No, we're
lose-
talking about how you found the
I
packet.
know, it's like.
No, I found this one, which was Dylan's.
Oh.
Okay, so guys, for 15, you got that picture. What I was saying is that picture shows you that the tangent line, right, is always lower than the exponential curve, right?
Mhm.
So all it takes is a sentence to show that that graph is telling us that the x plus 1 quantity, right, i.e. the y values of the x plus 1 graph are less than the y values of the e to the x graph, and so it should be a fairly straightforward argument to make, right? For 16, you are just, so it says, what's the equation of the, so it says, suppose you have this graph, y equals log of x. What's the equation of the tangent line at the x-intercept? Where's the x-intercept? 1, 0. Okay, so the procedure, it's a rough sketch. The procedure would be, well, what's the derivative of that function at that point? I would take the derivative of the log function. What's the derivative of the log function? 1 over x. Okay. Okay, so then what's the, well, what I really should do is take the derivative and evaluate it at what x value?
1.
So 1 over x evaluated at 1 is 1. Should we use point slop form?
Sure.
Sure. Y minus 0 equals the slop times x minus 1. Oh, that's a really simple formula. I might as well just write it like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheesh. We sheeshin? Anything else you guys had questions? I was going to go over an example or two from the very end.
Yeah, we can go.
Yeah. You got softball game today?
Yeah,
Who are you playing?
Eureka.
Eureka?
Uh-huh.
That's a school? Wait, what? Is that like a C school or something?
I don't know, we haven't
They got-
played them in like years.
It's B, yeah.
I didn't know there was a school up there.
There's
I thought those people went to Whitefish.
There's 2 actually. There's also
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I
really?
think
Well,
there's
there's
one.
three.
I don't know
College
why, but I have a
crazy.
feeling
You know where
that's-
Troy is?
Oh, wait.
Heard of it.
It's like west of Libby.
Oh, yeah.
But they're actually, they actually have a school too. They don't go to Libby.
We
Yeah.
actually have a surprising amount of schools,
There's so many
In
C
Montana.
schools in the state.
and most of them only have like 15 kids in them.
Well, like state track.
Yeah.
Like, because like
What is
A is
it?
paired with C.
You get that? Yeah.
Okay. Let's go over a couple more examples. I'm thinking something from number
37.
41.
I'm looking at 36 through 41. So let's do maybe like one from this page.
37 and 41.
37? Sure. 30, we'll do 37 and 41. Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
So
16.
this is all about the differentiation. 37 is what's the equation of a tangent line at this point? So also be prepared to answer a question like, what's the slope of the tangent line at that point? Well, of course, we have to know the slope to find the equation. 37 says, here's a curve. And at the end, we'll check our answer with Mr. Computer. Cosine of y plus e to the y equals x squared plus 1. And let's first just make sure I didn't mess up, which I probably could have. Is the point 1, 0 even on this curve? Hopefully it is.
Yeah.
Because if not, that's embarrassing for me. Let's try it out. If I plug to what I'm asking here is, in order to know if this point's on the curve, you have to be able to plug in, this is my x,
Oh, yes, it is.
This is my y. So let's see, plugging in. So cosine of 0 plus e to the 0 should be equal to 1 squared plus 1. Cosine of 0 is 1, e to the 0 is 1. That is true. So, okay, great. That point does live on the curve. That's nice. I'm not going to ask you to do this on your quiz, but just something to keep in the back of your head is in the future, in a different class maybe, you may be asked to find, like, actually figure out what's a point that lives on this curve. And to do that, it's a lot of times a little bit of guess and check. But the first thing you might notice is like, well, this is going to be an awfully complex equation if this y isn't a 0. So you can just kind of figure it out through a little bit of guess and check. Anyway, tangent line, derivative. Derivative with respect to
Y,
x.
X, that's what it is.
Because ultimately I'm looking for dy over dx. Later on, we're going to be taking the derivative with respect to time. That'll be a little different. So this guy would be, don't forget the y prime.
Ah, I just said
So the derivative of cosine of y is negative y prime sine y. The derivative of e to the y
You're the worst.
is y prime e to the y,
The best.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Derivative of x squared is 2x. Derivative of 1 is nothing. Do we feel good about that? Now, you have a choice here. You could plug in, actually, we have an x value and a y value that we're curious about. You could plug those in right now and then solve for y prime, or you can solve for y prime and plug in. I'm going to do the latter because it just shows two techniques at once. What I'm talking about is, well, let's solve for y prime. If I isolate the y prime, what's left over inside here?
Negative sine y plus e to the y.
I'm going to write it like this if that's okay with you.
It's not okay.
Yes,
I
it is.
guess.
Yes, it is. It's okay with you.
Just kidding.
Agreed to the terms and conditions.
Did I?
In the syllabus.
Did you even send home a syllabus?
I don't know if you did this year. Did you?
It's on Classroom, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's technically not a syllabus.
Yeah, it's a
A syllabus, I think, well, maybe I'm wrong. I think technically has to outline every
every
assignment.
assignment, yeah.
This is more of just an overview of the class.
Yeah.
So if we solve this,
By contract. Fine.
is everyone cool beans with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now,
Solidified. Nope,
That's
that's not what I
solidified.
wanted. That's not what I wanted.
what am I ultimately trying to do? I want to know, firstly, what's the slope of the tangent line?
I meant
So the
Feely's
slope is the derivative evaluated at 0.10. Do we feel okay about that?
Yes.
The notation makes sense?
Oh my god.
Okay, let's plug in. So it would be 2 times 1 divided by e to the 0 minus the sine of 0,
0. Oh, yeah.
which is
2?
2.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes. Duh, I said it.
Yes, indeed.
For fourth. For fourth. No.
And now, yeah, the rest is actually very easy. You just go, well, I got a point, and I got a slope. So the last step is, just y minus 0 equals 2 times. So. Oh, great machine!
Do tell us.
I beseech thee.
I beseech thee.
Do you ever just beseech the great machine for
Yeah.
knowledge?
Yeah, literally all the time.
Literally,
Did
All the
this
time.
problem just magically turn out? where the
All of
slope
those times
was
zero,
equal to, like,
0, or 1.
When you plugged in
the
originally?
sine of 0 is 0.
J-Ho, I was finally like, yeah, I think I'm leaning towards Brown. And then my dad was like, I don't know, I'm leaning towards Smith. I'm like, great.
Well,
We're
he's
back
not.
at
You're a
square one.
decider. You
He's
are.
obviously
know
just
that.
testing you,
I know
Jesse.
that.
What up, bruh?
What are you doing?
Just
Oh my god, I love it they said bra.
Just
It's
being
not
savage.
like bra or bro, it's like a bra.
Bruh.
It's like bruh.
Bruh.
Cause you can't, cause you don't have the time.
Yeah,
to
you
say,
just
"What's
look
up,
at us
brother?"
like, shit.
Awesome.
So, bruh, look at this.
Do you know Tuesday the 13th is an unlucky day in some parts of the world?
Is it like the equivalent of our Friday the 13th?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Do you know why people are even afraid of the 13th?
Well, shit.
Number 13? What? Because in the 1700 BC, the Babylonians had this like, they wrote a bunch of rules, like 200 and some rules, and they forgot the 13th rule. They forgot to write it. And so since then, we have had this suspicion or the superstition about the 13th. Isn't that crazy?
I don't believe in Babylonians.
Well,
I know
you
that, like-
are afraid of the number 13.
Yeah, I know that like every historian agrees that they existed, but I just don't agree. It's just my opinion. I don't believe that ancient Egypt was real either.
Oh,
In my opinion, that wasn't real.
Got it.
Look at the tangent line, guys. Look.
In my opinion,
That
Wow.
was it.
In my
Yeah.
Let's talk more about the 13.
No, no.
The number 13.
No.
There's
Is
a
it
great
crazy?
Jim
It's
Carrey
just a
movie.
number.
Look
It's
at
just a
no,
number.
that's the number 23, not 13.
On Friday the
You just-
13th, like there are thousands of dollars that don't get invested in our society because people stay home, people are afraid to buy things, people don't buy houses, people don't get married. Think of all the money that's lost.
I will
on Friday the
purposely get
13th.
married.
Yeah, I'm getting
Have you
married on
considered that
Saturday.
we live in a society?
We do. be
Yes.
living in
We live in a
We
society.
do be living in a
Well,
society.
J-Ho, I don't believe you.
I was thinking about
Believe
moving to
in
Japan
society.
because you know what they do? When kids go to school when they're younger, they actually teach them how to be compassionate. So when they're in high school, you don't have to deal with behavior issues. They all want to help each other
Boo!
learn.
Boo!
They go to school 280 days a year and they go for longer times during the day.
That sounds
I
awesome.
How many of them have a
I take it
chipped
back.
diesel pickup
I
truck
take
that
it
can roll coal on pedestrians?
Probably not many.
Don't come here talking about Japan. Come here. I need the pickup trucks. Okay, do you see how we checked the answer? You see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, look at this. Look what he has.
What the-
He's got a little dot.
Oh my God.
Before,
No!
before I added the plus one, there was a whole bunch. Look. Isn't that weird?
Oh my God.
Oh, with the plus one,
That's so funny.
they're it's like just a mini little. There they are. Oh, they all went away.
They're there.
They are.
Oh. You'll see 'em. They're actually really good.
I don't see them.
I don't see them. They'll go up. Like, there's more than one.
Oh, there are.
Yeah. It's like a, okay, there's one. Kill.
There's no one there.
There's just one.
I don't see
Oh,
it.
there. No, there's not.
Where?
What? Are you going so
Caleb.
fast? Yes,
Quit
that's
going
one.
so fast. Quit going so fast.
Caleb, there's none others that.
Caleb, big.
Oh,
there you
there
go.
There is. Zoom in between 12 and 13.
Oh! I'm sorry I doubted you. That's a big blue move. Good job. Wow.
So do they just get progressively smaller?
I don't know.
Well, let's keep
Oh
going.
my
Last year's
God.
class may have had.
That makes it
They
even better.
get smaller?
No,
No, they're all the same size.
Hello? You may have found that, but I still want you off the window.
Well, anyway, guys, if you're wondering, the reason for this is because pick an X value. There's because of how cyclical this is. There's going to be an infinite number. Well, it has to be a small enough X value. There's an infinite number of Y values. That's periodic. Okay, it's another example.
41, weren't we?
Good meme. Good meme.
Can I put in a request?
Not quite.
Just happened that
There's
my prime
42.
was equal to what you were.
There's no 42.
No, you just plug it in.
Wait, what?
Your
No
left,
clue, huh?
like on the board.
Yeah.
You
I don't
plugged in
pretend I
things,
know
you got
these
2
numbers.
equals 2. And did it just happen that my prime was also equal to 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Hall, can I put in a?
What?
Can I do, 27.
Woo.
41, please. Oh, that's right.
We're done.
Why? J Hall, you're wrong. 41 is not the meme number. It's 42.
42, apparently.
Because it's 21.
No,
No.
because it's the answer to everything.
In the universe.
21 is.
Okay, 41, meme number.
What?
So it's only answer to the other half of the questions in the universe.
The real best
Happy
meme number, see if you can know why this is true. is
13.
6.
D9.
6.
D9.
Because the same
Six.
number is 666. No, that's my guess.
Kate might know the answer to this.
Oya, Oya?
He says it one more
How
time.
many Oyas? In the Oya. Oya, Oya. Oya, Oya, Oya. There's 6.
D9.
No, there's only 6.
I know, I'm trying to say 69.
Okay.
But he's not going for it.
Well, I am.
41
I am.
says, like, we got this curve, and it says, if you were moving along this curve, what would be, and okay, so whatever this curve looks like, I have no idea. No idea.
Who knows?
It's totally just arbitrary shape I just
Curves
drew.
in upon itself.
If you were moving in a way such that your y value was increasing at 5 units per minute, so I'd write that as y prime is 5. Does that make sense? If I want to be more descriptive, I would say dy over d
T?
t, because it's units per minute.
Oh, we're back to this.
So that idea. But then you got to be like, well, if you're talking about derivative of y with respect to t, you also got to talk about the derivative of x with respect to t. So the question is, if you were at the origin, what would be your rate of change in the x direction? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, so you'd say derivative of that guy is
3 plus
3x
2y.
prime
Oh, yes.
plus 2y prime. This one's going to be a bit of it's kind of like a sine of u.
Oh.
So you got to go u prime times the cosine
of X minus Y.
of u. So
Big brain.
this is a good example of one where like, oh geez, do I really need to isolate the x prime? Or would it be more convenient and maybe less error prone to just plug in my known stuff right now? I'm thinking just, yeah, it makes more sense to plug in everything we know. Because what do we know? We know that at this moment we care about our x value is 0, our y value is 0, and y prime is 5. Let's plug all that in. This is what I'm solving for, so I still have 3x prime. How about this?
2 times 0 times 5.
So this is just going to become 2 times 0 times 5. And this guy's going to be,
Mr. Hall, does 3x prime be just 8? Or why is it 3x?
because
Is it
x,
time?
when you're talking about time, time is the variable. X is like a function of time now.
So it's
What you can catch a mistake here is if you don't do x prime, you're going to then ask yourself, like, what am I even looking this? What am I trying to solve for? What's up, Mr. Phillips?
What's up? Is the square root of x to the 6th x to the 3rd?
Technically, well, it's the absolute value of x to the 3rd. Because if x was negative, I mean, if you're restricting yourself to positives, then yes. But yeah, assuming x is positive, then yes, x cubed. So
Not the popular version of Talk Tuesday.
what?
Just the popular version of Talk
I know.
Yeah,
Those sheesh TikToks have been making
Yeah?
me famous. Okay, so let's tally up. Let's tally up. So I have a 3 x prime equals here if I distribute here I just what's cosine of 0?
1?
1. Look, it's like a little happy man.
That's, well, it's not really.
I'm not sure.
It's more like straight face.
We're not straight face, I can see a slight.
It's slight. It's slight.
So he's like,
Mine looks
it's
straight
really-
face.
I think he's content.
Content. He's a content boy.
There we go. We got our answer.
And you have no idea what your face looks like, but you think you know, and then you actually look in the mirror and it's like nothing like what you
Dude, that's
Yeah.
a mood.
Big mood, no cap, am
Literally
I
all the
right?
time.
Heck yeah.
No.
Okay.
There's a negativo.
Okay, we can sort of check our answer here. We
There's
can
a
go like-
hair.
Oh, thank God
Let's see
for
what this
race
looks like.
snakes. Thank Athena, really.
Athena?
Yeah, or Aphrodite.
Whoa.
Whoa,
It's
that
like
is
you drew
funky.
a parabola in a
That's
car.
so gross.
I love it.
That's so bad.
I love it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
and-
like you drew
A parabola in a car. Moving car.
And that is nice because you could imagine you were a particle moving along this curve. Your y value would be increasing, right? And you could, if you went fast enough, you could be going at a rate so that your y value is increasing at 5 units per minute. And then we can see that at the origin, I gotta kind of zoom in though. At the origin, you are moving left, right? And you can see that the slope is not very slopey yet. So it would make sense that, well, what this says is that you're basically moving left half as fast as you're moving up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Probably. Well, what's interesting is your velocity would be changing all the time. If you have to
Yeah, let's
maintain
don't get
this, you'd have to have very strange motion to keep this constant because the shape's wiggly and it's changing slope.
Jesse, did I tell you that my
All right, are you guys all okay?
coffee traders this morning?
Quiz
I heard about it from Zach.
on third day.
No.
Third day.
Friday.
Thursday.
Friday.
Thursday.
Friday.
Thursday.
No.
Yeah, do we have a no card?
We just have the sheet.
No, guys, you have to know those.
But I don't yet.
Okay, think of this way. You want all of us to fail it.
Well, we're all probably gonna fail anyway, so.